And welcome to another edition of the Traction Reaction Podcast. I'm Steve Zautke. Thanks for liking and subscribing to our channel. And for the racing fan, the month of May at Indianapolis is what it's all about. Of course, fans of the Traction Reaction Podcast have paid keen attention to the greatest spectacle of racing for many years. We're familiar with the greats of the Indianapolis 500. The names like Louis Meyer, Wilbur Shaw, Maury Rose, Johnny Rutherford, Bobby Unser, Foyt Mears, Al Sr., and more recently, Elio Castro Neves. However, the 801 drivers who have raced in the Indianapolis 500, only 75 of them have actually won the race. Of the remaining 726, who are the 33 best never to have won the Indy 500? Here's my opinion. Now, you got to race in a minimum of four Indianapolis 500s. Otherwise, I feel the field would be kind of skewed, especially towards, which would be another good video, the 1967 Indianapolis 500, which is probably the greatest field ever collected that raced in the Indianapolis 500. That race, of course, you had such the influx of Formula One drivers. So drivers like Dennis Holm, Jackie Stewart, Jochen Rindt, in that era that switched over from Formula One to race in the Indianapolis 500, just added so much to the race. But who are those drivers? Never the one. Now, of course, we're going to have there's going to be the few early ones. Most of you guys are going to go, oh yeah, that makes sense. But hopefully, give you a couple of names you may not be familiar with, and then feel free to comment and give your reactions or some that I may have missed. And I hope you enjoy it. So the first one I'm going to start off with is Ted Horn. Now, Ted Horn's Indianapolis 500 record is extraordinary. In the 10 races, he either finished second, third, or fourth in his final 9. Horn won 3 American Automobile Association national championships, AAA national championships. He won in 46, 47. The 1948 one he won after he was killed, sadly, in a race he added at the end of the season at Du Quoin. Didn't even have to run the race. They ran 2 races that year at Du Quoin, and they added one at the end of the season. But he felt for his fans he should be there, especially since even though he had already won the national championship, he participated. A wheel broke, car flipped, and unfortunately he was killed. Horn also dominated at half-mile dirt tracks, winning more than 80 AAA sprint car races from 1936 to 48, including 23 in 1948 alone. So he was killed in 1948. At that time, he was probably at the zenith of his racing career. Very sad. Very talented driver. One of the first, you could almost say, professional drivers. A friend of mine has a vast racing collection, and one of the most, all his cars and all his wonderful things he had, the one thing that really got me was he had Ted Horn's typewriter. Ted Horn would typewrite letters back to fans who would send for, can I get an autograph photo or something? Ted Horn was one of those guys. He would typewrite a letter to fans across the nation. Just an extraordinary person. Number 2, Lloyd Ruby. Lloyd Ruby's on everybody's list. Hard luck favorite. Ruby was in position to win the Indy 500 multiple times between about 1966 and 71. His best chances, of course, was in 69. He had been dueling with eventual winner Mario Andretti, and he makes a scheduled pit stop. The car lurches forward, and they still got the fueler hooked on, and it lurches, it breaks the fuel tank, and the inlet fuel is pouring out of it. Not only is it a fire, I mean, the whole thing could have went up, but it ended his race. And you see Ruby get out of the car and just despondent, because that was the race for him to win. And other times he also raced with him and chief mechanic Dave Laycock, drove for Gene White out of Atlanta. In 71 had some extraordinary looking red, white, and blue, beautiful cars, wedge cars, the mongooses, very fast cars. Unfortunately, did not have the reliability. He did finish in the top 10 3 times. Won Rookie of the Year in 1960, I believe. Raced until 77. Sadly, in his last race, heavy crash. Number three, Rex Mays. After winning the AAA Pacific Coast Championship in 1934 and 1935, Mays, a California native, continued his rise and started to run at Indianapolis, winning the pole in 1935 and 36. He also won the pole again in 1940 and 48. Didn't finish the Indianapolis 500 until his seventh try. He got a second in 1940. Now, what's interesting with Mays, drivers in that period, they lost four Indianapolis 500s because of World War II. Obviously, there's a war going on, but you wonder if no World War II, could guys like Ted Horn, Rex Mays, and some of these other drivers, could they have maybe perhaps won an Indianapolis 500? Don't know. Number four, Melvin Tony Bettenhausen. Just the Bettenhausens, of course, what a name with Indianapolis. After 14 Indianapolis 500 races, 1964 was shaping to be his best chance for a victory. It was a combination of his car, his crew, and the experienced driver that made Tony, known as the Tinley Park Express, a betting favorite. That car, extraordinary car. The story behind that car is interesting. Parnelli Jones was testing that car at the Speedway the previous fall. It was an Epperly laydown roadster, and he just could not get the thing to handle. Tony got in the car, got the car to handle, finally got the thing to got the handling figured out. Went to car owner Lindsey Hopkins and said, "You get me a car like this, I can win the Indianapolis 500." Well, what happened? Lindsey Hopkins actually bought that car from under Parnelli. So Parnelli then moved to the Agajanian car. Parnelli was pissed. And I talked to Parnelli probably about 10 years ago about this, and he still was. He was very disappointed. He thought that if he drove that car, he could have won the 500 as a rookie in that car. That's how strongly he felt that car was. Now, the car was the fastest car of the during that year. Paul Russo, his buddy, Chicago buddy, is having issues with his car. Hey, Tony, can you try my car? Happened all the time. Driving the Steerley Motor Freight car. Now, in books, I get pissed off when I see this. You hear these guys who like to embellish, go, "Oh yeah, Tony got in Paul Russo's shit box and blah 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 blah." The car that Tony got into was the 59 500 winner. That was Roger Ward's car from 1959. And what happened? A bolt came out, but messed up with the steering as he was going down. He was going to come in and pit and thought, "I'm going to do one more lap." The front suspension went all cattywampus, and he got into the fence. Horrible wreck. Johnny Parsons Jr. told me a story. He was about 16 years old, 17 years old. He's on the pit wall helping out, whatever. He said he saw the whole thing right in front of him, sat down, cried. He said it was one of the worst things he ever saw. His best finish for Tony was in 1955. In 1951, he won the championship, winning 6 races in the Bellinger car. 1958, he won it again, winning no races. So winning 2 championships, one by dominating the second half in the summer, basically, and then 58 just winning it on consistency. It's another one of those, unfortunately, one of those what ifs. What if Tony Bettenhausen would have won the race? He's 44 years old at the time of his kill. Same age as Ed Carpenter is now. Obviously, cigarettes, whatever. Life was a lot harder in 1961. Tony Bettenhausen, Ed Carpenter are the same age at this point. Number 5, Michael Andretti. Probably one of the best second-generation drivers. Just won while he was climbing the racing ladder, was winning. Not only winning races, but championships. 1984, I believe it is. Finished 5th in his first 500. He ended up driving 16 races, led laps in 9 of those 15 races, and leads the all-time laps led 431, most of any non-winner. Losing, plus unfortunately, he lost 5 Indianapolis 500s due to the CART IRL split. That did not help his chances to get victory. He did get 5 wins as a car owner. That perhaps has taken a little bit of a sting out of what many call the Andretti curse. So Michael, you could easily make a case that Michael Andretti could be number 1, especially when you look at those laps led. Number 6, Dan Gurney. Dan Gurney took his rookie test in a front engine roadster, something he was very proud of. He's blamed credited, whatever you want to say, for bringing rear engine cars to Indianapolis. You could also say the same for Roger Ward. It was Roger Ward that actually invited John Cooper after they, I believe, the running a Formula Libre race, I think it was, and then seeing the U.S. Grand Prix later at Watkins Glen, invited John Cooper to run and to do a test, just try it out. Gurney was running for Mickey Thompson, and then invited Colin Chapman to check things out. And Colin Chapman was like, I think our cars could do very well. They put together a package with Ford. They were fast right away in 63, dominated the 1963 Tony Bettenhausen 200 to be the first rear engine win in IndyCar racing. 64 probably could have won, but the deal with Dunlop tires, as many of you guys are familiar with, happened with the chunking of the tires, broke the rear suspension. Number 7, Tony Stewart, talented right away, fast out of luck. He actually supposedly had a deal together in 1995, a package together. He also tested with AJ Foyt as the IRL was doing their first tests. And much respect between the two, but they knew they were going to hit heads. Tony Stewart, modern day AJ Foyt in a lot of ways. It ain't going to work. They're going to be bumping heads. Finally, I wasn't sure if it was Kerry Agajanian, somebody recommended, hey, John Menard, that might be the place for you to go. That's where he ended up. John Menard was fast right away, ended up on the pole. Should have started second. Sadly, Scott Brayton, the pole setter, was killed. They moved him over. So he's started the 1996 race on the pole. Only drove in 5 races, led laps in 4 of them. He led 122 laps. Best finish was only a 5th, but he stated in interviews, and I think he mentioned it to me when I did an interview with him, 1998, he felt if that engine didn't blow up, he could have easily won that race. Tony, if you look at Tony and his career, the two holes, Daytona 500 and Indianapolis 500, you just kind of scratch your head. But he has won, and now he's winning NHRA races. Incredible. Number 8, Pat O'Connor. Pat O'Connor was a fan favorite. Tragic, lost his life in the 1958 race. In his 5 races, he led twice for 46 laps. He was the pole winner in 57, champion sprint car driver 2. When he died, he was on the current Sports Illustrated cover, and that helped ignite the Sports Illustrated magazine curse hoax. I call it magazine curse hoax because it's you produce enough covers of anything, whether I don't care what it is, especially with sports and that, eventually you're going to have bad things happen, and that's what happened. I don't believe in that one. But Pat O'Connor, you talk to old timers, that 58 race, there are people, when they announced that when Pat was killed, they left and they never came back. Pat O'Connor was that loved by a contingent of fans in the state of Indiana. You're talking all-American boy. Just very, very sad situation. Number 9, Roberto Guerrero. I got here, I wrote down one of racing's nice guys. Until recently, had the best post-World War II opening record of any driver at Indianapolis. Guerrero finished in 2nd place twice, along with a 3rd and a 4th place in his first 500s. Almost won the course. He almost won the race in 1987. That bulky clutch, enabling Al Unser Sr. to win his 4th race. Later came back after a 17-day coma that was caused by a tire testing crash in the fall. He drove in 15 races, led 56 laps in 3 races, won the pole 92, but super nice guy. Number 10, Eddie Sachs. Eddie Sachs knew how to win races and fans. And then the big question always is, should he or should not have he pitted with 3 laps to go in 1961? It was his best chance to win. And a lot of people say he should have stayed out there. Myself, I think he should have stayed out there. Just run it, try it, slow down as much as you can. Do what you can. But that's Eddie. Some say, though, his best race was the following year in 62. Had issues, could not get the car to handle. Eddie was a great race car driver. As Roger Ward said, knew nothing about cars. Eddie knew nothing, could not really set up a car, did not give good feedback. Finally, they got the car in the race in 1962, I think on the 3rd day. And if I recall, he started 27th, ended up finishing 3rd. And a lot of people say that was his best race. Won 2 poles, 4 front row starts in 8 races, and he led 66 laps in 3 races. Roger McCluskey. As a rookie in 1963, Roger was running third when he spun in oil on the last lap, which is kind of a precursor of things to come. In 18 total races, best finish of third in 1973, which helped propel them to win the national championship. Roger McCluskey, very underrated driver. Unfortunately, because of his lack of success at Indianapolis, I think to some people is not well known as others. I think another one you could say in that way is Joe Leonard, which we'll be talking about in a moment, because they didn't have an Indianapolis 500, but they won national championships. Roger winning it in 1973, and not only that, won a championship in USAC sprint cars and also USAC stock cars. Roger was a very well-respected driver, which was one of the reasons why he came to be the USAC competition director. Joe Leonard. Heartbreak in 1968. Yes, the STP turbine could have won in 68. Was leading the race when the bearing failed. Well-respected driver. 2-time national champion. Won the championship in 1972 and 1973 with not the best cars. The VPJ1 and VPJ2 were new cars, new designs by Maurice Philippe with the help of money from Firestone. Completely different designs. And I once had the opportunity to sit down with both Al Unser Sr. and Mario Andretti. And also later I talked to Jimmy Delamarter and Pernell Jones. And I said, you guys always rip on the VPJ1. Cool looking car, a little too new, but I said, it won a national championship. It won races. It won at Milwaukee. I believe might have won a race at Trenton, but you guys always rip on it. I think it was Al Senior who said, but that's how strong our team was. That the team was able to overcome that. They had the engineering, they had the drivers, that they were able to overcome the limitations of that car to not only win races, but also to win a national championship. I thought that was pretty interesting. Number 13, Duke Neyland. Yes, the man who tamed the Novi, the all-powerful Novi, 2-time pole winner, winner in midgets and sprints. But he only finished 3 of the 10 races he raced. Known as the Iron Duke, was the Eastern Dirt Track champion in 1938 and also Midwest champion in 1941. He won 28 sprint car races from 1937 through 41. A heck of a driver, well-respected driver. Sadly, never won the 500. Number 14, Paul Goldsmith. This is a great stat, only drove in 8 total IndyCar races. 6 were in the Indianapolis 500. The other ones were at Milwaukee. And he was a front runner in everything he drove. He was a well-respected driver, not only on, but also off the track. World-renowned pilot. I forget exactly how many hours he had, but something like 20,000 hours. Flew into his 90s, which is absolutely unheard of. Donald Davidson tells me a story that Paul called him up and said, hey, you want to come to a dinner? And I think it was in Michigan. And Donald goes, yeah, that'd be great. Sure, I'll meet you up there. He goes, no, I'll pick you up. He's like, drive all the way down from Griffith, Indiana, where his airport was and where he lived. He says, no, we'll fly down there and pick you up, fly you up there, man. So, and it was night flying too. He's flying instruments. So incredible. Number 15, Lou Moore. Of course, Lou Moore is famous for being a 5-time winning car owner. Between 1938 and 1949, Moore also had a notable driving career, driving in 9 Indianapolis 500s, winning the pole in 1932 and getting 3 top 3 finishes. He led a pair of races for I think it was 23 laps. Sadly, Lou Moore died at age 51 in 1956. I believe he was doing some stuff in NASCAR at the time. So Lou Moore, very, very underrated, and I don't want to say forgotten, but is not as brought up as much as he should. Number 16, Jack McGrath, one of my favorite drivers from the 1950s. Jack, unfortunately, hit his peak about 1953, 1955, bad timing, because at that time Bill Vukovich was the top dog and main rival. McGrath was not only talented as a driver, but he also served as his own chief mechanic. He led 4 races for 70 laps, and he finished twice. He finished third twice in 1951 and 1954. Just one of those guys. Just just a neat guy, neat story. Have a guy get out of his car, literally open up the hood and start pulling spark plugs. Obviously, you don't see that anymore. Jack McGrath was a hell of a driver. Also drove stock cars. Unfortunately, was killed at the old Phoenix Fairgrounds in the last AAA race in 1955. Number 17, Earl Cooper. Earl can be considered one of the first, I guess you could say, professional race car drivers. Cooper was a factory Stutz driver. He had several popular wins at tracks like at Santa Monica, Corona, which was like a road course or street course. It was basically a big circle, and also Elgin. Those predated his success on the board tracks later with Harry Miller cars. He's declared the AAA national champion in 1913, 15, and 17. That's a kind of a controversial stat. It was a committee, I think initially started by a Hal Verisnap, and then later Russ Caitlin from the old Speed Age put those together and kind of went back and added up the races and what the points would be and say, hey, these are the national champions back in the 50s. Cooper finished second in the Indianapolis 500 in 1924, and he also started from the pole position in 1926. Number 18, Harry Hartz. Harry Hartz is probably the most consistent Indianapolis 500 driver of all time. He finished second as a riding mechanic for Eddie Hearn in 1919, and then he moved over to driver in 1922, getting a 3 second place and a pair of fourth place finishes. He never qualified no worse than fourth in 5 consecutive races. Unfortunately, a career-ending injury shortened his career, but he later enjoyed success as a car owner, fielding the Miller Hart specials that Billy Arnold and later Fred Frame both drove to victory in the Indy 500 in 1930 and 32. And Hartz showed up at the Indianapolis 500 every May through his death in late 1973. I believe Harry was at the 1973 race. Number 19, Teddy Tetzlaff. Teddy is one of the first superstars of auto racing. He was not a fan of his nickname, Terrible Teddy. So Terrible Teddy Tetzlaff, that was a nickname that he earned due to his reputation, and he ran his machinery hard. And it may have been one of the reasons why he never won an Indianapolis 500. He had very good cars, but only finished the race once, and that was a second in 1912. He also appeared in several silent films that had a racing theme, including probably his most famous one was Speed Kings in 1913. Number 20 is Scott Goodyear. He suffered 2 brutal defeats. The first one, of course, is the wheel-to-wheel battle to the finish with Al Unser Jr. in 1992. That's a tough loss, but it also, though, propelled his career from he was known basically as just this talented road racer from Canada to a complete IndyCar driver. The knack on him was maybe he can't run ovals. In fact, he actually had to start second in driving the car that I believe Mike Groff had qualified for him because he had issues with qualifying. So it propelled him that this guy is a complete driver. Not only can he drive street courses and road races, but he can also drive the ovals. But that black flag in 1995 for passing the pace car, it was exceptionally cruel when you see the leisurely pace car that's just kind of ambling through turn 4 to get to the pits. There's people that will debate me on that, but I think that was just a horrible. Yes, did he pass the pace car? Yes. Was the pace car probably going 50 miles an hour slower than he should have? Yes. So just a very frustrating situation for Scott Goodyear and Scott Goodyear fans. He did lead 3 races for 49 laps. Number 21, Cliff Brazier. Cliff Brazier was always in the Indianapolis programs, if you look at him back in the 60s and 70s, as the driver to have driven the most Indianapolis 500s. I believe it's 16, if I recall. He was a part-time Hollywood stuntman who, yes, participated in 16 Indianapolis 500 races and had driven more miles, 6,142 and a half in competition at Indianapolis than any other driver until A.J. Foyt surpassed that mark in 1975. Bergier led the Indianapolis 500 three different years in 41, 46, and 47, won the pole position in 46, and 8 times finished among the top 10, including one with the supercharged V8 Novi, which he had taken over from Herb Ardinger and finished fourth. This is one of the few times that the Novi actually finished the Indianapolis 500. 1941, he was the second driver to go the entire distance without making a single pit stop. The other one, of course, I think it was Dave Evans in the Cummins diesel. Number 22 is Bob Berman. Bob Berman is he was one of the superstars in the teens. Unfortunately, his career was cut short by a fatal accident. He is considered one of the nation's top drivers. He was a Buick test driver and early board track racer, and he finished sixth in 1915. He's one of those guys. He doesn't have the stats, but if you know, Bob Berman was a hell of a racer back in the day. Very highly respected driver too. Speaking of highly respected drivers, one that was an up and coming driver is Jimmy Snyder. He was the first driver to break the 130 mile an hour barrier at Indianapolis. He was a Midwest driver who was one of the best big car drivers, sprint car drivers of the 30s. But his 166 laps led is the third most of any non-winner. He finished second to Wilbur Shaw in 1939, but sadly was killed in a midget car crash the following month. Number 24 is Barney Oldfield. Barney Oldfield is the original outlaw. Due to his inclination to race lucrative outlaw races, he was only eligible or attempted to run AAA sanctioned Indianapolis 500 twice, and he finished fifth both times. He's also a bit older, too. He was probably the first superstar, but he was more interested. Racing for him was more of a career, not based on stats, but basically he was the first of the money racers. Would go and did a lot of barnstorming. In fact, he was involved in a very famous match race, probably the most famous match race at the Milwaukee Mile in 1917. And that's where he made his money. He also had an agent that he worked with, and they would line up these races all across. And all his had a publicity was all his had his name in the paper. And everybody at that time knew who Barney Oldfield was. Number 25, one of my favorite drivers growing up, Gary Bettenhausen. He always said he wanted to win the first 500 for his father and then the second one for himself. Should have won in 1972. Dirt car accident in 1974 partially paralyzed his left arm and got him fired from Team Penske. Drove in a total of 21 races. His best race was in 1980. With one arm and basically a 5-year-old car, he held off Gordon Johncock to finish third. Was fastest qualifier in 1991. I was there for that one. That was extraordinary. And he also was the track record holder twice. He in 1991 he had the fastest lap in qualifying. In 1972 he was a track record holder, but unfortunately, or fortunately for me, because I was also a Bob Unser fan, Bob Unser was the next one out and broke Bettenhausen's record. Number 26 is Mike Mosley. Mike Mosley led the 1972 race also in a 5-year-old car when I believe a hub broke and he crashed into the wall while leading. He only finished in the top 10 3 times with a best of third in 1979. He qualified on the middle of the front row in his last 2 races, last one being in 1983. Sadly, he died the following spring in a dune buggy or van accident out in the desert. Was a huge Mike Mosley fan. Number 27, Wally Dallenbach. The first 7 Indy 500s for Wally can be considered extremely mediocre, but the popular New Jersey native was a favorite to fans. It wasn't until he was hired by Pat Patrick in mid-1973, replacing Sweet Savage. He ended up winning 3 straight races during the summer and became an instant front runner from that point on. He was on the front row in 1974, and he led 4 times for 96 laps in 1975 before a blown engine ended his day. Up until that point, it looked like he was going to win that race. Blew the engine, and then you had the trio that not only in 75, also in 76, there was that trio: Bobby Unser, AJ Foyt, and Johnny Rutherford. Then dominated the last part of that race. Of course, the race in 1975 was called at 174 laps, and Unser won. Following year, 101 laps with Rutherford. Foyt could have won both of those races, but he ended up winning the following race in 77. Number 28, Jimmy Vasser. Also is another one of these drivers who lost several races while in top flight equipment due to the CART IRL split. I won't mention the 1996 US 500 that he mentioned, let bygones be bygones. He eventually drove in 8 races, leading in 3 races. He had a best finish of 4th in 1994 and again in 2001. Number 29, Danny Ungaius. Danny on the gas, one of the quickest drivers in the late 70s. He was a front runner in 1978, was definitely a contender to win, leading 4 times for 71 laps. He lost an engine late in the race. He's, of course, known for that spectacular accident that he had in turn 3 in 1981. He ended up making a total of 11 500 starts. And then after a 10-year abstinence, replaced the original pole sitter, Scott Brayton, who was killed in 1996, and ran the race, which turned out to be I believe, his final. Mel Kenyon lost the fingers on his left hand from burns in a horrible racing accident at Langhorne in 1965. The following year in 1966, he was entered to run at Gerhardt, and there was some controversy. I shouldn't say controversy. There was some debate if USAC was going to allow him to run in the race. My father told me a story. He's at A.J. Watson's garage, and he's there with Jim Hurtubise and a few other drivers, including Mel Kenyon. And Mel Kenyon at that time, I believe his brother was there, Don, and they came up with the socket for his hand run, and they did let him run, and he ended up finishing 5th. 1968, he finished 3rd and earned 4th place the following year in 69 and again 73. Mel Kenyon was a midget, one of probably the greatest midget car driver ever to race, and was smooth. One of the nicest guys out there, but I was told by several drivers was not afraid to stuff a wheel into you in a midget once in a while. Born again Christian, all this off the track. On the track, though, he's a little bit of the devil in him. But Mel Kenyon, one of the greatest, still alive at this day. I think at age 92, just extraordinary person. Paul Tracy. Some consider him the 2002 Indianapolis 500, including Tracy. I'm not going to get into that at this point, but the 2002 race was his best outing. Surprisingly struggled with Team Penske and later Newman Haas in the 90s at the Speedway, but he won everywhere else. I think at times Paul could be his worst enemy, but that's also what made him so good. So it's a debate, but Paul Tracy, very, very talented driver. Number 32, Ralph Hepburn. He's the man who obliterated the Indianapolis 500 qualifying track records with a supercharged V8 Nova in 1946. He was one of the nation's leading motorcycle racers before turning to 4 wheels in 1924. He competed in the Indianapolis 500 a total of 15 times from 1925 through 46, led 3 of them, each in a different decade. So he led the 20s, 30s, and the 40s. He finished 3rd in 1931 and 1937. His all-time qualifying mark, 133 miles an hour and a single lap of 134 with the Nova in 1946, broke the existing track records by almost 4 miles an hour. Sadly, though, he passed from a practice crash at IMS while practicing with the Nova in 1948. Number 33, Jim Hurtubise, number 33. Those who look at stats overlook Hurtubise. But probably his greatest run at Indianapolis was in 1962. He had two crashes with the Epperly laydown roadster that he had put on the front row the previous year. but he was able to sneak a 5-year-old car into the race on the last day of qualifying, which he never even drove before. He got in it, stuck it in the race. Not only that, it was the only time that he finished the race, all 200 laps, and finished 13th. He almost broke the 250-mile-an-hour barrier as a rookie in 1960, just sending shockwaves to around everybody. Who is this guy? This guy comes, at the time, he was living out in California, CRA runner, running sprint cars. Him and Parnelli came over to the Midwest that spring. And also he had run at the end of the year, running some of the dirt car races. But to many of those who just pay attention in Indianapolis, is like, who is this kid? And he almost goes out and breaks the 150-mile-an-hour record. He was on the front row the following year in 61. 62, I mentioned, he had to get in the old Jim Robbins backup car. 63, drives the Novi, puts it on the front row, middle of the front row. The Novi and Jim Hurtubise were electric back then. Sadly, though, in 1964, he had built a lightweight roadster with his brother. And that car, I believe, was running fifth at the time when it developed an oil leak and was black flagged and taken out of the race. Following week at Milwaukee, of course, he had a devastating accident in Burns, which changed him. You talked to Parnelli Jones and some other people, he became a little stubborn. He ended up made a comeback, made it into the 65 race once again with a Novi. And then he also ended up running with Norm Nelson in stock cars, winning a NASCAR race down in Atlanta, which was probably one of the great comeback stories of all time. Now, his stubbornness with the Mallard may have derailed his career a bit, especially at Indianapolis, but he did drive rear-engine cars at Indy and in the 500. He drove a rear-engine car in the race in 1966, 72, and 74. One of the great all-time fan favorites. When you hear the story of, I heard Hurtubise had a case of beer in the engine compartment of the Novi. That happened in 72. He had already qualified the ex-AJ Foyt Coyote for Dick Hammond, and that was just a way for them to celebrate. He wasn't going to qualify because it didn't have an engine, but that was kind of a way of celebrating. They wanted to celebrate them winning getting into the race. And so when the time expired, as they got closer to the end of the line, they would let the cars go in front of them so they could qualify. So I won't bring up the 78 situation with him on the track, but he was a fan favorite. And then if you look at a previous video that I did, his last run, his last race or attempt was in 81 with Norm Hall's Kingfish Chevy, which a lot of people forget. So if you want, look that up. Appreciate everybody that helped me out on this video, including the Indianapolis Motor Speedway Museum, their photos, along with Bob Gates and Ralph Hibbard Jr. and Greenfield Gallery. Thank you hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun putting it together. And I was also working on a project with the Harry Miller Club that I do work with. And we're going to do a story on the same subject in their newsletter. Go look up harrymillerclub.com. Feel free to join it. And we're going to do an event at the Milwaukee Mile at the end of June. I think it's June 27th and 28th. We should have over 40 Indianapolis style cars dating back from the teens, Harry Miller cars, to the upright dirt cars, to roadsters, and even rear engine Offenhauser powered cars. So we'd love to have you out there. Feel free to look it up. I'll have that information in the comments too. So don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Here's to a fun and safe Indianapolis 500. And thanks for tuning in.